Okay, welcome everyone to our fifth installment of our best practices sharing conference calls. It's good to have you all on the phone primarily, and Carolyn and I are here by video conference, and we'll look forward to a good conversation. As we posted to Facebook yesterday, and as I shared just a moment ago to reiterate, we chose for this call, instead of featuring two or three folks, to really leave a little more time for us all to openly discuss. We really appreciate and thank all the people who have been willing to be featured on past calls. As you know, the experts on all these topics, they're all of us, right? As we all know, the Alliance is an informal group of folks. We're just trying to learn from one another and do this concept as well as we can in each of our communities. Our focus topic today is gaining sponsorship and community support, and we really welcome any topics that you'd like to discuss related to that. And if we get through that and have some extra time, we can talk about anything that's of interest. So I would just encourage you again, more from sort of a tech standpoint here. If you're using this for the first time, when you're not talking, if you'd keep yourself on mute, that'd be great. If you want to say something, just come off mute, or you can also use the chat function if you use it on the computer. So it looks like Vicki, you raised your hand to want to say something. Please, by all means, go ahead if you have a comment. Sure.
Are you able to okay?
Sorry, we've got an echo going on. So again, if you're not talking at a given time, go ahead and mute your line. If you're on a phone, you may know how to do that. If you're on the video conferencing, or if you've used your computer, in the bottom left of your screen, you can just click mute. There we go. But I do want you to be able to share your thoughts. So, Vicki, it looks like you just went mute, but you would raise your hand, maybe say something. So, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. I am actually painting my house today, so I'm listening to the call while I paint the exterior of my house. So I'm trying to use my iPad. I haven't used it before, so that I think that's why we're getting that feedback. But anyways, I'm just wondering, are you going to do I might have missed it already, a go round to who's at the meeting today? I think for me, because I'm fairly new, that would be useful, because I found with the last meeting, or the first meeting I attended, I did want to follow up with people, but I wasn't sure who was talking sometimes.
Sure. To answer your question, we haven't done that in recent calls because it ended up taking about 15 minutes of the hour. But to your point about wanting to know who was on the call, what I'm happy to do is shoot an email out to everyone who registered so you can see who else was listed. And anyone who talks, I'll just invite them to, say who you are and say what market you're in, if that works okay, Vicki, and that way you'll know who commented, anything you might want to follow up on.
I think that's fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we do have a little more of a manageable group size today. It looks like there are about 11 or 12 of us on, which is great. So I would tell you that I have a couple of comments to share around sponsorships and community support. But really, again, we have a lot of open time. We had one question that someone posted on the Facebook post last night that I want to make sure that we get to. And that was namely how to get a press release and possible radio time. That was one question that Lynn had posted. So why don't we get started before we dive into any of them? If there are questions, or either questions or topics such as things you've had a lot of success with, you want to make sure we surface today, why don't we just kind of go around here? Anyone who has something like that, go ahead and share it, and then I'll make sure we get to it. Any questions or things you're hoping to learn about community engagement or sponsorship? Okay, well, so again, we have the press release and how to gain, I'll just call it media coverage. And of course, generally we want to talk about financial sponsorships and how people have gone about acquiring those. If there's anything else, feel free to speak up or use that chat function. I'm going to share a couple of things here, and then I'll just open it up more broadly. Maybe we'll go more broadly on our topic today. Around sponsorships, the thing I would share, first a little bit of background. With our club in Iowa City, both for our men's and women's clubs, we've been fortunate to have sponsors for all of our events. If you've heard me on other calls, you've heard me say I'm very proud of the success we've had, but I'm also very cognizant of the fact that we've really relied on sizzle with our events. And if I could redo the last 3 years, I'm not sure I would rely quite so much on sizzle. So take my comments with a grain of salt on this. But we, largely because of the people that have been involved in our boards, we had sort of a natural support group to start. So for example, our first event we held at the Athletics Museum for the University of Iowa, and the person who leads the board up around that is on our board. And so we got that space donated and got the university to donate food and beer. And on an ongoing basis, our women's group has historically met at the same place each time, which is the University Club in our town. And they've donated the space, and they always get a sponsor to pay for appetizers, which I think ends up being $500 to $800 or so. And they have their members pay for their own drinks. In our case, we've moved our event each quarter to somewhere new, and so the costs associated with the event have varied widely. Our biggest event is one we do jointly with our women's club, and the city of Iowa City was willing to let us close down the street and kind of have a street party for it, and it was absolutely amazing. But it also cost us like $6,000 because we had to rent fencing and tents and all manner of things, and we also get really good turnout for that, so there's more food and drink and etc. So that's like the high end of our scale. On the low end of our scale, of our sort of 10 or 11 we've had 2 or 3 of them in hotel type spaces, or one of our golf courses is managed by a hotel, and we've had 2 meetings there, and they donate the space, and then really our sponsors just pay for food and drink, which in that case was, I think, as little as like $600. So that's kind of the range of our events, and we always try to build in at least a couple $100 of extra that we charge the sponsors in order to create some buffer for us around little stuff like getting our signs printed, or boosting our social media posts, or other administrative things. So that's what we've been able to do. And honestly, because of the size and popularity of our group, we have a kind of a backlog of people willing to sponsor. We've been lucky with that. Wow. I don't expect that to last forever, but that's kind of been our experience so far. We've also, in addition, had luck with in-kind sponsors for various things. So we've got some nice, like, tall signage that we use. We had printing done for business cards. We had, what else was in kind? The newspaper, we do a press release, and they always post it for us. So those are things I'd call kind of in-kind sponsorships. But what are other people's experiences been around getting people to pay for things such as food or drink and venue space? Or have you tried to do that?
Leighton, this is Kim down in Phoenix, Valley of the Sun chapter.
Hey, Kim.
So our chapter's been in existence for 6 quarters. Our 7th quarter meeting is this month, and we're a bit unique in that we have 2 groups that function under our chapter, 2 different parts of Phoenix, and we're getting ready to launch our 3rd group out in the West Valley of Phoenix, so that's exciting. But the way we handle sponsors is 2 different ways. One, the in-kind sponsor. So we've been very fortunate to have a company that donates their time to do our web page, maintain our web page. We have photographers who donate their time to come and take all of our pictures at our events. We have 2 different lifestyle magazines down here that give us quarterly space to write articles about our chapter. We have a flower sponsor that donates a bouquet of flowers to each meeting, and we raffle that off. Not a money raffle, just a fun draw a member's name at the end of our meeting, and they get to take home a beautiful bouquet of flowers. But the other thing that we've done for those other costs that we incur, like the web hosting costs, and we have a printing sponsor who will take care of all of our printing needs. But, you know, there's other stuff that comes up in the course of the administration of the chapter. So we've gone out and we secure corporate sponsors who can donate $500, and that gives them an annual sponsorship with us. And we have a whole sponsorship document that I'm happy to share with you, but it tells them what they get for that $500. And it's basically promotion at our meetings, social media, web page, printed materials, in press releases when we can. And the reason that we keep that at $500 is because, so we're not a legal entity. And if you get it $600, depending on how that organization codes that donation to you, it could trigger a 1099. Hopefully they code it towards marketing and things like that. Hopefully they don't code it towards like a service thing, because you don't want to get a 1099 from them so that's why we keep it at $500. The other thing that we've done is we did go out, and I just saw the email this morning on a bank account. So we have set up a bank account with Wells Fargo, and the way we had to do that was we had to get a trade name for our chapter. And so the bank account's actually listed, it's attached to my social security number. So we use that bank account strictly for those $500 corporate sponsor checks that come in. We put those in that bank account, and then we have a debit card that's what we pay for all of our expenses with, and that's all that bank account is used for. And I did a lot of research on being able to set that bank account up, and we can go into that later if you're interested in that, and you know, kind of the ins and outs of that. But that's how we've been able to be really successful in getting dollars to pay for those administration costs that come about. When it comes to food and beverage, you know, we try to keep things really simple for ourselves. And so we have a cash bar, and then we have our venues are also sponsored. The space is donated to us, and we've made sure we've picked hotels that have a restaurant on site. So if the ladies want to come early and grab a bite to eat before the meeting, they have that option as well. But the cash bar has been successful, and we've been able to find venue sponsors. So it's worked really, really well for us down here.
Cool. Thanks for all that information, Kim. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking about some of the things you were weighing in on, sort of the types of things that are donated or in kind or by money. I was thinking too about the value proposition question. What is the value prop to the sponsor? Why are some of us getting that support and others are not, sort of a thing? I mean, we can back that as well. And then let's table logistics on the money part until later if we can. But then I think that will be an important topic as well. So if we can come back into types, I heard you describe printing, photography, raffle giveaways, food and drink, and space, and those are certainly ones that resonate. Whether from Kim or others, are there other things that you're finding donated that that have added value for your club? And I'm seeing now too, I'm trying to watch the chats while we talk here too. So if anyone has anything else that they've gotten donated that makes sense to share, please do. So Lynn, if you want to speak from your phone, if for some reason you're muted, let me, I'll unmute you manually. So Lynn, you're live now. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Hi, I'm Lynn Bradescu. I'm in Boise, Idaho, and our group is 100 ADA. And just piggybacking on what the previous caller said, we became a actual 501c3, which really made everything a lot easier. I mean, it was a little bit of a, we went to a CPA, they became a member, and he donated most of his time. We filled out the paperwork. It wasn't really that difficult at all. And now we can actually, when we're going out to beg for money, as I call it, we can give people a receipt from and they can write everything off. So with our sponsors, I'm a realtor, and I just got a $500 sponsorship from a title company, and they would not have given us the $500 unless they could get that receipt from the IRS or from us. So that's really helped, and we're just going to have our first event in September, and we're having it at a country club, and it will cost us $3,000, and that's why we need that sponsorship money. Good. So we're trying to get enough sponsors to pay for the $3,000 at the venue, and that includes all the food, and then we'll do a no-host bar. So it's going to be a lovely event, and people seem to be really excited about it.
That does sound like a great event. And again, on the logistics of handling money, I appreciate you weighing in on that, of becoming a 501c3. A couple comments. Again, if we have time, we'll get to that. That is a topic we covered thoroughly on our April 7 call, and there's a recording for that available out on the webpage for people who want to listen in on that. And if we have time, we'll come back to that point. Carolyn, you asked where did the $6,000 come from that I mentioned. When we had that bigger event, we had 2 sponsors. Usually our quarterly sponsors have been anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 in our case. So to get that big one, we had 2 sponsors, one from the men's clubs. And where did they come from? One of them is a successful orthodontist in town, and so we worked with them to do some marketing theme stuff. Their marketing has to do with Smile. So we did a backdrop and a lot of photography where we had like signs of I am one of 100 type signage, and along with the Smile, and it was good marketing for them. We were on television for it. I mean, so the value prop is there for them when generally, especially when we have the double event, because we're on television, we get 10,000 impressions on social media, and usually there's press coverage in print as well. So I think that's a big part of why they do it, or how did we get it? It's because it actually has value. And then on the men's side, it's been, we had a bar owner who's one of our board members, has various restaurants and bars, and they stepped up in our first year to do that event. And then this year we had a major construction entity who's doing a big road project for the city, and so they wanted to do it because we did it downtown where their project was. But I think the short answer is just connections with folks who have resources that they want to deploy for charitable causes. How are other folks who have financial sponsors in particular, can you share any insights on how you've secured those?
This is Kim again in Phoenix. You know, the financial sponsors that we've gotten have come from some of our members who have businesses, have been sponsors through their business. Other people, you know, it just what we are doing really resonates with them. And, you know, we look for those people when we talk to and we tell them the concept and like, that's amazing. Those are the kind of people that we look for. And I really feel like people just want to be helpful and want to see us succeed. And that's been a big part of our success down here it's the way we tell our story. And it's the natural attraction.
Yeah, I agree. Paula asks, please cover how you get the sponsor. Where do you start? Happy to answer, but I know others have good experiences to share as well. I
mean, I think part of it is you just have to do the ask.
Yeah.
If you step in front of your room and you say, we have corporate sponsorship opportunities available. There's information on the back desk, you know, please, you know, if you're interested, come talk to us. This is what the corporate sponsorship, this is what we have a need for. You got to put it out there.
This is Paula, if I may speak.
Of course you may. Thanks, Paula.
Okay, I'm from Seattle. We're fairly new and we've had a lot of growing pains. We only have like 40 members, so we don't have a very big network. I've published articles, but I'm kind of lost on like, what company do I go to? I mean, we're not well known. I have no idea. I can tell a story, but I have no idea how to start, who to approach.
Thanks for sharing that, Paul. I make a few comments. One, 40 people donating $100 is a lot of money that would have went to charity unless you were doing what you're doing. So I just really encourage you and compliment you for your work, because that's awesome. So I think too often we've thought about the numbers, and I would just encourage you, don't lose. That's my first comment. My second is, I would confess to you, I think larger metro markets like the one that you're in Seattle, I really think it's a different animal than sort of mid-sized community. So I'm involved in the Iowa City and Cedar Rapids chapters, and those are towns of 100,000 and 250,000 people. I think it's just and I have a lot of friends who've started clubs in smaller communities of sort of 20,000 people. And I think what's easier there is the connectivity part. In the bigger cities, I think there are some different challenges to that. So I don't pretend to have the answers on that. I think we'll have some other people who can weigh in with major metro experience. But what I would say, echoing Kim's comments about just making the ask, I have two comments on that. One is, if you're having difficulty growing or connecting to supporters, I think it's really about starting small with the right 1 or 2 or 3 connectors. So I think finding that couple of people who may be in your network or who someone can connect you to really give some additional propulsion to it is great. And those people are folks who are just heavily networked who can bring people to the party is what I would say. And then secondly, this point about partnering sort of with a venue or a business who has a story to share. Some of our best sponsorships have been venue-based. So like we had one event that was at a Harley-Davidson dealership, and that was really fun. Like they rolled out the red carpet and people got to get on the motorcycles and like rip the throttle. And so it was kind of like kids in a candy store. And it was easy for them to host financially because they used one of our other member groups to like provide barbecue and got a couple of coolers of beers, and it really wasn't that big of a financial thing. And I mean, there are a lot of other examples that I think having something more creative than a hotel has been a value prop for us. And I think there are a lot of businesses who are excited to share their space. So that might be a place to start. And I agree with Kim, it's just about making that ask. But sometimes you need the right person to make the ask. And if that's not you, you might want to start with finding who that person is. What's everybody else think about that topic?
It's Lynn again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think that you have to just, we don't really think about the people that are closest to us, and you have to mentally take an inventory of every single person that you do business with. And if you're doing business with them, they should be the people that you're asking to donate and to help you out. Your hairdresser, your dentist, every single person is, as a realtor, I use a lot of vendors and, the pest control guy, every single person that I know, I ask. And I have a folder that I take with me with all of the information in it, because sometimes when you're talking to them, they're just kind of like deer in the headlights. It's so much information that it's nice to be able to give them something that they can take away. So I have a folder with all of the information in it. It's very succinct. It's very clear. And then I just say, I would really appreciate your help. And we're also going to be promoting you on all of our social media websites, TV, radio, print, etc. So I think they get it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think false scarcity can be useful too. In our first 2 years, we really did have people lined up because it's a really attractive group to be in front of. It's kind of an affluent middle-aged group. So it's a group that people want to be in front of from a marketing standpoint. This year, we were getting down to kind of our last 4 or 5, so we wanted to make sure we had some bolstered support. So we announced at one of our meetings, we reminded everyone of who all our sponsors had been. And we do that in the meeting. We do a social media post with a picture from each event at the end of each year, thanking each sponsor again. We put them in the newspaper to thank them, and we put them in all our emails to our members so they see it a lot. And then at the end of last year, I went in front and just explained that, hey, we have just 4 opportunities to sponsor next year. We'd like to invite additional people to get involved in sponsoring, and this is what it includes. It includes a $1,500 to $2,500 commitment or more, depending on if you have a creative venue or you want to spend more. And the criteria by which we'll select our sponsors has to do with the attractiveness and creativity of the venue that they want to use. And it goes without saying that only our members are going to be considered. You know, we don't take money from just anybody. It's just our members. And so it creates a sense of exclusivity. And that's how we got someone to step up for the downtown one, that developer. You know, obviously behind the scenes, we'd love to have more sponsors. So you kind of sort of have the courage to, you know, present that false scarcity. And the worst case scenario is that you don't get some big shiny event and you've got to go back to the well somewhere you've already been. And, you know, so it's no big deal. I think creating a sense of opportunity instead of like feeling or sounding needy to the people you're asking is important.
Hi, this is Linda from Minneapolis. And I'm just wondering, is there any documentation out there or sample documentation, so I'm not like recreating the wheel, on what to present to sponsors on what we can offer? Or
Yeah, great question. One thing
what other people have presented to their sponsors, and you know.
Yeah, this is Kim in Phoenix. Leighton, I can share you. I'll email you the document that we use.
Cool.
And then I can share that with everybody.
That would be wonderful.
That's great. Under chapter resources on the webpage, we have sample forms. And
yeah, I've been out there quite a bit.
Yeah, we don't have one of those. So Kim, if you want to share that, that'd be great. We'll get that added to the page.
Okay.
I've been trying to work on one of my own, and I don't know if I'm on the right page, you know, if I'm going at it correctly or not. And, you know, we just had our second quarterly meeting here and stuff. So this is something that we're really interested in doing. And
cool. Well, one thing for Minneapolis, if you want to reach me offline, shoot me a message, because our firm may be interested in sponsoring in the Twin Cities.
Awesome.
I'd like to send you a message too. Okay.
And how do I reach you?
Yeah, I'm Leighton Smith. If you're on, Leighton.smith@gmail, you can send me a message or reply to the automated email you got when you registered for this call, or if you go on Facebook and search for.
Okay. I think I do have your email.
Yeah, send me a message.
Okay.
Hey, Leighton, this is Carolyn Walters, and I'm from the Raleigh chapter. And we're fairly new as well. We've had 2 meetings so far. We have our 3rd one coming up September 15th. And I wanted to, number one, we do have a sponsorship letter as well, so I'm happy to send that over for anyone that might want to use it. And we're really now starting to get into, we've had a lot of the in-kind sponsorships that have been discussed, photographers, videographers, and videography is one that I think we need an even better one, but one that I know the men's chapters have done a really good job of. Photographers, print companies, and such. But one thing I wanted to mention to Paula, I think it was Paula, it was fairly new starting up, is when we started, we're now just over 200 members. And when we started, it was as simple as getting business cards, and we had those donated by a local printer. And we love our business cards. But taking those, and all of our kind of core group had a bunch of those, and just networking. Some of us are professionals and some of us are stay-at-home moms. So for the professionals, I know I worked it into every sales call I went on to. I just happened to mention what we were doing and I would pull out that business card, and it always prompted a good discussion. And through some of those, we've had one large pharmaceutical company who is very interested in working with us creatively on some sponsorship opportunities and donating their space out for some of our events, which is awesome. But also I would recommend to you to take your business cards and was it Paula that's in Seattle? Leighton was?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would check out, there is a group, it's a national organization called Creative Mornings. And I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but they have monthly, I think it's called Creative Mornings. I'll search it, and if I'm wrong, I will get back to you, Leighton, so that you can share the information. But they they have chapters all over the U.S. And I have to double check that. I'll do it while I'm on the phone here. But they have morning coffees, and it's usually from like 8 o'clock to 9:30. And there's amazing people, and they have someone that comes up and they have a sponsor for coffee. But I just went to my first one that was recommended to me, and I met the most interesting people. And one of the men that I met there was a videographer and a photographer. And I can tell you, on my way to that meeting, I was talking to my colleague about how desperately we need a really good videographer. And as we sat down, I met the most interesting guy who loved our concept, who emailed me the next day about partnering together. So that may be a great way to tell your story and get others to be interested in what you guys are doing.
Yeah, good stuff. I would add on that same note, Carolyn, absolute same sort of thing. There's something called a 1 Million Cups that we were able to present at. That's a sort of a startup culture. Started by the Kauffman Foundation, and we were getting our concept going. We pitched it there and got feedback on the concept, and that's also how we sourced our photographer. So yeah, I think for the in-kind stuff, there are a lot of great people who want to step forward, and really it's an audience you want to be in front of. Please do send the info, Carolyn, or even just comment on the Facebook post I'll do so everyone can see it if that's easy. Congrats on all the success so far. So what else on value prop, or just anything else? Let me just pause for some silence and let people jump in who maybe haven't felt an opportunity to do that.
Leighton, can you hear me?
Sure can. Colette, how are you?
Good. Sorry I was a little late. It's Colette phoning in from Halifax, or dialing in. I just wanted to say one of the other things that I put in my sponsorship package is that they don't just sponsor the one meeting, that we're involved with them sort of for a quarter, and also to show something that has legs, or if they sponsor for the year. I also say that we continue to do recognition on Throwback Thursdays. So we're now on our 14th meeting, and we're still shouting out to our first meeting, 3 years ago or whatever. And that's been something that really tweaked with some of the people that I was pitching sponsorship to as well. So even just to add that into the mix of sponsorship, that, once you've been a sponsor of ours, we do a little thing that says we love our sponsors, and do a shout out, sponsoring, from our fourth meeting or things like that. So just another way to extend it past the annual thing, or just the quarterly or the meeting sponsorship. That can give a little bit of added value.
Good stuff. What else? Good stuff. CreativeMornings.com. Good stuff. Well, shall we move on to some logistics? I know that topic of the money part always comes up. It seems like we're basically through the topic of sponsors and community engagement. Let me give a moment if anyone wants to chat or speak up if there's anything else on that topic before we move on. I guess I would just add, as far as the press release or community engagement stuff, we have one of the things we did is we have a person who owns a business journal that's on our board, and that's kind of our inside track. But we also did spend some money each year to do an ad thanking all our sponsors. So I think that has helped, I think, to do a little something with them. I would say also on the community engagement broadly side of things, some of us who are involved have made a point to attend, various things and represent our group. So like United Way's annual meeting has been something where we've had a friendly relationship there. There are 2 really great women's leadership conferences that our female counterparts attend and sort of have a booth at, if that makes sense. And we also, a lot of us, when we make certain smaller donations to other things, we'll sort of do it in the 100 Plus's name. We've had 2 of our charities that we've gotten heavily involved in doing additional work for them. One is Honor Flight, which is an organization that flies veterans in the U.S. to Washington, D.C. for a day experience. And we're putting on an additional event for them where we're helping to raise money. So we have gone over and above with some entities, and our members have done that too, sort of to our pleasant surprise. And having a chance for people to see how the 100 Plus sort of web grows out into other things, I think has helped for the community to cherish us. Another thing I'd say I've observed with a variety of clubs, and I don't want to sound crass about this, but founders and club organizers have gotten a lot of personal notoriety around it, and I see many of those folks being very gracious in how they use that notoriety. So awards for, Charity of the Year or Person of the Year or Philanthropist of the Year or whatever type of a thing. Again, not at the risk of sounding a little crass, that might be something that you might consider pursuing after you've had some amount of success, getting your club nominated for those things so they're more known in a broader audience. That's some of my mental dump. What else do folks have around engagement in media, et cetera, before we maybe move on to the logistics?
Leighton, this is Jean Carlquist. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can. Go ahead, Jean.
I dialed in late, and I just had a question regarding sponsorship. I mean, you have a view into what a lot of chapters are doing around the country. Do you have a sense of how many chapters, or just in general terms, on a, kind of what percentage of 100 plus chapters are operating with sponsorship?
Boy, Colette, if you want to weigh in too, we know they're in the low 400s in terms of number of clubs. I don't believe we have any hard data for you about how many use sponsors, but if you really force me to give you some conjecture on it, I would say that most get space donated, and I would say that probably a third to a half get financial sponsors to offset basic things like food or drink. This is really conjecture, but some portion of clubs do that. And I would say most clubs have in-kind support around things like photographs and maybe some printing and things like that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I would suggest, it's Colette here, I would suggest also that as you mature with the sponsorship, it really opens up other opportunities to grow. In the beginning, we only had in kind, and when we started getting cash sponsorship, it gave me more ability to pay for Facebook ads and really sort of do a little bit of that extra stuff that allows to drive membership and some of the other things. So we may not have that data, but I would suggest that it really is extremely helpful. And I think that as you mature, it's something to try and look for people within your own groups to try and get people that have had some experience with it in the past.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah, excuse me, who was just talking?
That was Colette from Halifax.
Oh. And then how do you get people to donate money, or are you a 501c3 as well, or?
I'm from Canada, so we've got some totally separate issues to deal with than in the U.S. So I'm not sure it would be helpful to.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, why don't we touch that real quickly, though? So 2 comments. One as a reminder, the April 7th call is posted to the webpage, a link, a recording of that call, and we address that topic in a detailed manner. How do you manage money and how you formed? I'd note that there are clubs in at least 5 countries around the world now, and so each country has their own process and obviously legalities. As we all know, most of the clubs are in Canada and the United States. To speak from a U.S. standpoint, I would say that there are 3 forms that we've observed. Some are 501c3s or partner with one, and the most common iterants of that would be partnering with a community foundation or similar organization in your community. Others, I would say, have just managed the money very manually, and the money goes directly to the charity. This is probably the majority position. This is what most clubs do. And they manage the money and sponsors in those cases, in most cases, are not getting a write-off. And I would say in our case, in our club, we haven't experienced that as a real pushback from charities. And then thirdly, a lot of clubs are starting to use partner entities to handle the payments. So we have one in Iowa that you've heard me talk about called One Mission Fundraising. There are others that are out there that will handle that for you and sort of make that system more smooth. I don't know if others on the call have besides those 3 options. So go it alone and manual and you're not a charity. Full other end of the spectrum is you're a 501c3 or partner with one. And then in the middle, I think there are sort of third parties that help with payments. Other ideas out there or other comments or questions?
Leighton?
Mm-hmm.
Lynn Bradescu here in Boise again.
Yeah,
we signed up for Wild Apricot, which is a nonprofit back-end software program. It links in with our website and PayPal, and it's just been fabulous. And you get a free, I can't remember how much the free trial is or how many months, but we did the free trial, and then they start charging you more than $40 a month after you get to like 500 members, which we're not there yet. But as soon as someone pays on PayPal, it's all recorded. They have templates, they have emails. It keeps track of all your membership. It's a huge, huge time saver and organization tool, and we just love it.
Cool. And Wild Apricot is what you said?
Yeah, wild apricot.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. It really is.
I'll post that to the Facebook post as well. Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm all about trying to make things simple.
Yeah, I hear you. Simple concept, big impact is our tagline. So we've always been able to sort of really lean on that. And we pushed all of our members, and we're actively still doing that, toward the online pay system. And it's not been that hard because we just harken back to that. We're about half of the way there in terms of what percentage of our members we gave them this year to transition, and we said, look, next year it's not an option. And honestly, if I lost 20% of my members because of that, I'd be willing to do it because I just think it's more sustainable. And, you know, I'm more interested in this lasting 20 years than I am peaking in year 3 with our membership numbers or something. And we have pulled back about 10% as a result of that. Again, if I would have been smart, I would have launched it the right way when we started, but I wasn't. So we're figuring it out.
Well, what we do is we have our members pay $100, $200, and that pays for 2 events because I don't want to have to chase them around for another $100 6 months from now. And that's we haven't gotten any pushback from it. It's been really good, and we use PayPal. And because we are a 501c3, we do get a discount on PayPal. It's 2.2%. So that's helpful.
Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. Anything else on sponsors in terms of the money or the managing the logistics of that? Okay. Why don't we broaden it then? Are there, I know we have a diversity of folks on the call in terms of what stage you're at with your club and anything else. What's a current challenge that you have or a current aha that's happened in the last few months that you might want to share with others on the call?
Well, this is Paula from Seattle, and yes, we have an additional challenge, I think, being in a big city because people, there's so many people, so many charities, people are spread out, and I've been publishing articles in the community newspapers, so I'm doing it like neighborhood by neighborhood, and we only get one or two, and I'm gonna try and do it again, but it's a real struggle. I'm envious of you guys who have a venue where so many people could attend because the traffic in Seattle is horrible. And that is also a dilemma for us, is where to meet. But we have allowed for online voting, but I think we're missing that, what should I call it? You know, the bonding of the group and getting people excited by being together. So I guess we have additional challenges, and if anybody has any other ideas, I would appreciate that.
Cool. Yeah, who's out there in a larger city? So I described, I'm in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids, and so, I mean, I can share things I've heard from others, but who else is in larger cities that can speak to that, whether with answers or just shared experiences? I think it's okay to just share your experience. It doesn't mean you have all the answers.
Yeah, this is Carolyn in Raleigh, and we kind of struggle with that too. Raleigh is such that we're really the triangle, which is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. So it's not uncommon for it to take 40 minutes for someone to have to get to our venue. So we do struggle with that, but what we are envisioning is that as we grow, that we kind of have sub-chapters. But in the meantime, until we get to that, the venues, we're just trying to really find, and it's hard. That's probably our biggest struggle right now, is to find the right venues. We have to accommodate, you know, about 180 people is what we're planning on for September. And we're looking for primarily like a bar type. And we've been able to come up with some cool looking places that have, you know, exposed brick and cool furniture and a bar set up so that we kind of can set it up and decorate it so that it's like a really fun ladies' night out where we're doing some really good stuff. It's becoming more of a challenge, I'll tell you that. But I think that has been, people are have been willing to travel to get there because it's been in a fun kind of ladies' night out type of venue. I don't know how long that's going to last.
Hi, this is Linda in Minneapolis again. You know, granted, we're not as big as Seattle, you know, and we probably don't have the traffic, you know, issues that some of you guys have. But one thing that we hold ours at a golf club, and we have found they have been gracious with us and donating the space for us. And it's gorgeous, you know, the views on the golf course and everything. And when it's gorgeous out, you know, they bring the bar right into the room for us, things like that. And it's a cash bar, so people can just get their drink when they want and things. So it's quiet and it's intimate and it's gorgeous. You know, you think of a club and, you know, we have the fireplace in there and everything and things. And so we've had 2 meetings there, and and we're working on some sponsorship with them also, hopefully. We talked about that last meeting with one of the ladies that just joined, you know, so yeah, so I mean, that's an option to look at. And I know we have 3 chapters here in the Twin Cities because of, you know, how large the Twin Cities, you know, the metro area is so wide here that we have a southwest, northwest, and the actual metro area. And 2 of them are at golf clubs and 1 is in a hotel. So, so yeah.
Just so I'm clear, it's 3 all women's clubs, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Correct.
Thanks.
And I've talked to a gentleman here about starting a guys club, but I don't know if, you know, I don't know if he's taken it yet or not, but, you know, he wanted to join our women's one, and I was just like, well, you know, you can, but, yeah, it's all women.
I'll be the one to say it. Guys are a bunch of bums. Don't worry about it. It's a long time. No, not
but
really.
I suggested, you know, that he started his own, and so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what else? We've got a few extra minutes here. Are there other topics that are on people's minds that they're facing that you might like to discuss?
This is Jean in Elmhurst, outside of Chicago. I just wanted to share that we lost one of our founding members to cancer in April, and we've been going for about 3 years. And it was really a tough thing for our group to go through, but it also really made us understand the importance of ensuring that you have a strong team of people who are committed to the success of your organization. You know, I don't know how, I think my experience listening to the different groups speak at the last conference, it seemed like some groups were running with 2 people and some were running with a strong team of many more who were doing the work quarter to quarter. But I just want to just throw that out as a thought to encourage people to make sure that whatever they're doing is well understood by somebody else. In case, God forbid, there's, you know, somebody needs to move or there's a problem with continuing in a leadership role with your group.
I'm sorry to hear about your loss. I didn't know about that. But
yeah, it was really a shame. Marta was very instrumental, actually, in helping with some other groups in the Chicago area. So it was a loss for a lot of reasons. But it's real important to have a way of making sure that the vision is strong and understood, and there's a good team of people that are committed to carry on work.
Yeah. Well said. Well, let me hijack a few minutes of time for the call then, if there aren't other questions, and if others come up, by all means, please speak up. But we're, those of us who are, again, very informal, completely volunteer organizers for the Alliance, we're working actively right now on preparing a conference that everyone will find useful and fun, I'd add as a side note. But let me ask you, what would you find most valuable in your time in the conference if you were to attend? And certainly we hope all of you on the call will consider attending. And I know some of you on the call were there at the first conference. What would you find most useful?
I can say I would love to know how, I guess from the start, to build some tips and ideas on how to build a strong steering committee, board, whatever you call it, leadership team.
Yeah.
So that you can share and share the responsibility among teams, and you know, ensure that if anyone were to go, that the group can still carry on successfully.
Yeah.
Carolyn, this is Paula. I was just going to kind of say the same thing, a startup kit. packages with, you know, handouts for the sponsors, design of business cards. I mean, all of this costs time and of course money to do design for, you know, a business card. And, you know, why not feed off of each other and let new people, and of course groups like ours, not have to reinvent the wheel. So I think there's different areas, and these conference calls, of course, is great, but, you know, to get it documented on managing money and sponsorship and so forth.
That's great. Thanks for that. I do want to make sure that everyone on the call knows that we do have some of the pieces of what might be a starter kit out on the webpage under sample forms, but I know there's a lot more to add to that, and we're hopeful that we can sort of crowdsource other strong examples in those categories and other things like we just learned about today, for example, a sponsorship form, which we don't yet have posted. So thanks for that comment. I'm excited to have more of that happen at the conference and elsewhere. So I'd love to hear more topics that people would find interesting. And then also if there's any comments or thoughts you have on format or structure, we'd sure welcome that. Last time, you may know, we had large group and then we broke into more table conversations. This time we're thinking that we'll again have large and small group conversations. And we think we'll include even more people, you know, sort of as topical experts, right? So if it's based on some specific thing your group does really well, or if it's giving people a chance just to powwow in smaller groups that are at different stages, maybe in the age of their clubs, or anything else. Those are all things we're considering. And I'm sure amongst all the founders of clubs out there, we have a lot of expertise around conferences and around you know, bringing people together in any number of ways. So if it's something you want to share now, great. Or if it's something you want to offline by phone or by email, please reach out to any of us on the informal planning committee, because we're anxious to have it be a really useful event to everybody. So. Why don't we do this then? It's about 12:57. Or excuse me, 3 to the hour, depending on where you are in the world. Are there any other questions or topics you want to make sure we get out there today, or quick questions?
I had one quick question, and I think it might have been, I don't know if it was Colette who brought this up, but I'm curious but when we're talking about sponsorship, how many folks are reaching out to their members with those asks? I know somebody had mentioned, you know, to mention that at the event and then have like a form laid out there that they can go visit. I can say from our group, and again, we're still new, I feel like we're very hesitant to send too much email and too much communication. We have promoted, like many others, that, you know, it's just so simple. It's 4 hours, $400 over the course of the year. And so we're kind of hesitant to go back and talk too much about sponsorship opportunities, but I do believe we have to do it. Has anyone had any success and with their membership? And if so, how did they communicate to their members the need for sponsors?
Let me open that to the group. I think I've already answered what our experience was. So let's see what other experiences are out there.
Well, one thing, this is Paula, I'm going to consider and talk with our steering committee about is, since we're small and we're struggling, is asking our members to maybe contribute money for our overhead, and it's really investing in the future for our group, because we're still struggling. And so I don't know if people, you know, $20 per person or something, like I say, investing in your future. How does that sound to people?
We already do that. We already, at every meeting, we ask everybody to put in $3 to $5. This is Linda from Minneapolis again. You know,
good. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we already take up a collection. you know, because we weren't sure if we, you know, for the room cost and things like that. And we tell them we have to pay for, you know, our website every year, and we have, you know, printing to do and mailings that we do, and, you know, we have other costs that we have outside of this room. And so we take up, you know, we have a bowl that sits out, and we just ask them as they leave to please consider putting, you know, anywhere from $3 to $5 in a bowl every time that they leave. And
you know, we did something similar. I just call it the fifth quarter, and I asked people to opt in and give a fifth $100 bill. We at first, when we didn't have as much corporate sponsorship around all this stuff like the webpage and all that, we had about 20 people who did that, and we kind of VIP'd them. Like I took them for special cocktails after the event or whatever, just so they felt valued about that. But yeah, I think asking members to pitch in absolutely can make sense. And Carolyn, on your question about our comment about communicating, I'm sensitive to that too. I really am. But we have a very specific way we do that. We do a month before the event reminder, 2 weeks before, a week before, and 3 days before, and we change the content each one. And then we do an email the day after announcing the winner. And then we do one like as soon as we can once we know when the check presentation will happen. So we have 8 emails that happen around each event. And we got feedback, people, and this may be a gender thing, I don't know, but like they just needed to get it drilled into their head, or they forgot the event was there. Like it never ceases to amaze me, the people that'll be like, oh man, I'm glad I saw your email yesterday. And I'm like, do you not have a calendar? Like, how do you live your life, you know? But so we kind of over communicate based on member feedback. But I'll tell you what, it's 1:02. Thanks everybody for your contributions to the conversation. It was fun to be able to hear from more people this time, and none of us have it all figured out, but each of us has at least one thing figured out. So it's fun to talk with everybody, and appreciate you coming. I did do a Facebook post noting some of the people who were here today that spoke up, and listed some of the materials that were shared, Wild Apricot, for example. And this recording will go up on YouTube here in the next couple of days if you want to go back and revisit it. And thanks a lot for coming. We look forward to hearing from you all and seeing many of you for our next conference call, and we hope for our conference next year. So thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Leighton.
Thank you, Leighton.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.